Welcome to Twin City Talk. Today we are talking with Mayor Alan Joins. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Hope everybody's good.
Yeah. So let's dive right in and talk about our lovely Winston-Salem. You know, you see a whole lot of the city in your role. Tell us, what you love about this city.
I describe Winston a lot of times. When I was growing up, there was a toy. You punch the toy, get knocked down, and pop back up. Winston's a lot like that. We've taken a lot of hits over the years with job losses and companies moving out and moving in, and it seems like we're very resilient. We always are able to pop back up, and I think it's a testimony to the character of the people who live here and the way we've organized ourselves.
Yeah, hearing great things that have been going on these last few years, like our affordable housing is getting better and violent crime has gone down. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Winston-Salem, like most cities across the country, has seen a spike in violent crimes, particularly homicides. Last year, we had a record number of homicides in Winston. It was 44, which is not as many as Chicago gets in a weekend, but it's still higher for us. But this year, we've already seen a 35% reduction in homicides, and I think it's due to a lot of things. Obviously a lot of good policing, but also we've put in place a number of social programs, such as our CURE program, where we actually send counselors into tough neighborhoods to work with young people and to say, okay, we know you get mad about things, but there are other ways to deal with that rather than resorting to violence. Matter of fact, we had one set of young people in an apartment, I think 4 or 5 of them playing a board game of some sort, and they got into an argument, and 2 of them pulled out guns and shot each other. One fatally, so over a board game. So I really congratulate all the efforts that we're doing here locally to do with that. Affordable housing, we've identified, or I guess it's been about 3 years ago, we identified a need for about 16,000 new units over the next 10 years. We put in place some efforts there. I created an affordable housing coalition that's been coming up with ideas and plans. And then I went to the city council and challenged them and us, to set aside $30 million and create a goal for ourselves of 750 units a year for 10 years. Well, we met our goal the first 3 years. But guess what? We spent just about all that $30 million to make it happen. So we're right now kind of regrouping. We're trying to create our own local housing trust fund, like a lot of North Carolina cities have, and trying to get around $50 to $70 million put in there, and we're working on that through the Winston-Salem Foundation that will help us do that. But thank goodness we've got a lot of good projects underway already, as we pointed out, and we'll starting to chip away at that number. I suspect we're now down to needing about 13,000 units. So still a lot, but we're making progress.
That's tremendous. I mean, that 33% reduction or whatever that number was in violent crime that's remarkable. That's a big number.
It is, and I'll just be frank with you. It's sort of a nationwide trend, frankly, that we're seeing some decline in violent crimes. Matter of fact, we had an overall decrease in every violent crime category except for rapes last year. So from last year, and some of that is really anecdotal kind of things here. But Chief Penn and his folks are doing a great job. We created this real-time crime center that's tied into really thousands of cameras around the city that really has helped us solve a lot of crimes. Matter of fact, a lot of times police officers will be responding to a crime, and we can give them real-time information before they get there and said, okay, we saw the bad guys or girls, whatever, run to this particular apartment, and so some arrests can be made very, very quickly there.
It's excellent. Yeah.
You got any questions?
So you have this, as you called it, little election coming up. Who are you running against someone?
Fortunately, I don't have any named opposition on the ballot for November. I did have a pretty aggressive primary election back in March. But we're going to spend some dollars just as respect to the voters, not so they don't think we're taking them for granted. So we'll be doing a little bit of advertisements and you might have seen some of my signs out already around the city, just to make sure people go down ballot and vote all the way down, because people don't go down there. A Sunday school class could upset you in an election like this. So we're also talking about the issues that just like some of them we've already referenced this morning. So look forward to getting it behind us, obviously.
And you've been mayor of our fine, lovely city for how long?
23 years.
23.
Yeah, when I was approached about running in 2001, I said, okay, I'll do it one term. And that was 6 terms ago.
How often is the mayoral?
It's every 4 years.
Every 4 years,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
It seems like that just blows by fast.
it does. It's amazing. And people say, maybe we need term limits. I said, well, maybe, but we really do if you think about it already, because the voters get to say every 4 years that you want you to continue or not.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well, based on your progress, and I grew up here and then lived in Los Angeles for a long time, and returned. And when I did, I saw so much of the progress, so much of the change.
Yes, sir.
And it's obviously a group effort, but there has to be good leadership at the top. And it's clear that your love, passion for the city, but also willingness to work with others and get things done is taking place. You have to have good leadership, and it starts at the top. And, from me, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of a number of other people, thank you for great work. I mean, truly
Thank
great
you.
work.
Very kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first campaign slogan was "One City Pulling Together," and that's exactly right. You got to really have the collaboration and cohesiveness of trying to solve some of these problems, and otherwise you're just kind of beating your head against the wall, so to speak. But we're fortunate. I mean, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I've been asked to run for some other offices over the years. I looked at the 5th District congressional race in '06, I guess it was, and just didn't get the fire in my belly to do that, because I think as mayor, it seems to me you've got the opportunity to make things happen, and working together. And a city our size, which is not all that big, 254,000, you can hopefully have some impact.
Yeah. I find it funny, though, because you are known all about town, right? Everybody knows who you are.
Can't get away with anything.
But we were attending an event in this building, a ribbon cutting, and I heard someone say, "And what do you do?" and you're like, "I'm the mayor." And I just found that funny, that it was like somebody didn't know who Alan Jones was.
It's you'd be in the grocery store or someplace, pushing your cart down the aisle, and somebody looking at you, and they're trying to figure out, is this guy wanted for something, or what was he doing?
Yes, you are. You wanted as mayor.
That's right. Yeah, but it's been fun. But like I said, I just decided not to run for anything else at this point, and try to keep doing what I'm doing for another 4 years, hopefully.
That shows a love for the city that you have.
It's amazing how much it does grow on you. You said you grew up here, of course, but I came here out of grad school, University of Georgia, which won a couple of national championships.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody
Good dog.
Some challenges coming up.
That really got big one this
I'll let
Saturday.
you say.
Down in Birmingham. Maybe Tuscaloosa.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Tuscaloosa. I thought I'd be here, 3-4 years and move on, because I wanted to be a city manager, because my degree's in public administration, and I thought I'd move on fairly quickly to another city of some sort, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like you drank the Kool-Aid and you're here, and it's a great place to be and to raise a family, and now it's a great place to live and enjoy nice social lives and quality of life here. So
Tremendous influx of youth.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
definitely a family town for me growing up, and that was one of the things I enjoyed about it as a kid. Was it was quiet, it was charming, and all those things. And then when I got back from LA, I didn't know this was where I was going to plant roots necessarily, but it was sort of, okay, I'm going to come back here and figure out where I want to go, probably somewhere East Coast. And the changes that had taken place between the time that I had left and the 15 years or so thereabouts before I returned was remarkable. And you could just see this wave of the direction it was headed in. And it continues to do so for, decades. It's been continuing to proliferate that. And there's so much opportunity. There's so much social life. There's I remember a lot of people saying, you got to get out of here if you're young because, you got to go find a young scene. And now I'm seeing people come here and say, oh, there's a really good youth vibe here.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's
That's
great.
amazing to me. I agree. That's one of the most heartening things that I hear is that it's a great place for a young person to be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, the thought was you got to go Charlotte, Atlanta, someplace to find a mate or find a date or whatever. So it's been great. And it's so, feels so good when you hear folks who come back and have, like yourself, who hadn't been here for a long time and to see the changes. So we used to jokingly say that 20 years ago you could shoot a cannon down 4th Street at 5 o'clock and not hit anybody. And so it's a changed world there today.
Just a bit.
Yeah, when I was a kid, you really only came downtown for the Stevens Center. That was like it. To come
That's
see
about
like
it,
the Nutcracker or whatever, and that was like it.
I remember getting a warning from my parents: after dark, don't go downtown.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And now it's the place to be.
I've seen them roll up those sidewalks.
Oh, yeah. What they do with them at night,
Where did they put them?
So, is there anything to discuss regarding the grounds complex that's now going up over there by Wake? I know that's now been a released piece of information, and it's been in the works for some time. Was there a process about that you're terribly tight with that's can be discussed? Because I'm super curious.
It's an amazing project. A lot of universities and other sports facilities, as you probably know better than me, have these villages that kind of develop around them or close to them there. And so I've been working with the athletic director, John Curry, at Wake Forest for some time. I've been looking at that area, what we used to call Old Beatty Street area, Beatty Back Street. And so trying to make some things happen there. And they've had some preliminary work done on it. And he came to me and said, do you think we could get some state monies to help carry it out? I said, well, fortunate that the chairman of the Appropriations Committee for the state legislature is Donnie Lambeth, who's representative here in the city. And so we talked to Donnie, and he agreed to try to help. And so we put together a letter, said, I need a letter of request. And John said, how much do you think we ought to ask for? I said, let's ask for $50 million. And so we did, with no idea of what we might get, but Donnie came back with $35 million, which was really good, which is going to allow the development of the infrastructure, the basic infrastructure, reworking some streets and roads, and opening up Silence Creek, which is a stream that runs through it there, creating a nice walkway through there. They'll get that all in place, and then with the private sector coming in with a wonderful developer that we hear, Front Street Capital, and their partner out of Atlanta, we'll probably see some ribbon cuttings, some groundbreakings for new buildings in there, probably about early next year, first quarter. So it's going to be an amazing project, and it's sort of self-perpetuating, if you will. There'll be residential, there'll be retail, there'll be some offices, so it'll be a kind of a full-service kind of place to live and work.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Congrats on being a part of that and getting that, spearheading that.
Those are the fun things to do when you can look back on it. Like the baseball stadium. It had its little fits and starts every year.
Yeah.
So I remember, I think this was in 2008 or 9, I think it was. I was running for re-election, so it must have been 2009. The project was about half finished, and there was one of the partners had defaulted on a loan in another project. And so some cross-default provisions caused a default in the loan that the developer had for there. And so the bank said, you got to move him out, move somebody else in if you need to, and refinance the whole thing. Well, of course, that was right in the middle of the Great Recession. And the banks weren't even speaking commercial lending. Yeah. So for 7 days in a row, above the fold, the local newspaper had a story about this project. I'm just seeing my political career just fly away. But we spent, I guess, probably about 3 months trying to restructure the whole thing, came up with a way to do it, and we can proudly say that not a dime of taxpayer money has gone into it. It's all been self-funding and worked out, knock on wood, so far. So so
that's excellent. Yeah.
What social challenges? What's some of the biggest things that you've encountered that you are glad you got over, or that you are on the uptick of getting over?
Well, one obvious one is COVID. that hit us hard. My secretary said, the head of Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center and the head of Novant want to have a conference call with you in the morning at 7:30. I said, oh, this isn't going to be good. So I took the call, and the basic message from Dr. Flostag and Jeff Lindsay was, Mayor, if you don't do something, people are going to die. So that, get your attention pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I had to put in place a stay-at-home order, which I knew was going to really impact particularly the service industry here in Winston. So the same day that we announced that, I'd gone to the city council through phone calls and said, I would recommend that we set aside $1 million to help, some of these individuals and small businesses. And I asked the United Way to kind of join with us, and they raised another $3.5 million. So we had about $4.5 million that could help individuals as well as small businesses get through that. Then we had to put in place a masking requirement, and got a lot of pushback on that, a lot of death threats, from all across the country, really. People saying, you're taking over and taking away our rights and that sort of thing. So glad that we got through. Your right to live. That's right. So that was a tough one to get through, but it's kind of part of the job, and had great support from the city council and working through that.
Yeah. I mean, when it all comes down to it, you could only do what you could do.
Yeah.
You can have a mandate, but that still doesn't force people to follow the rules, and it's up to them whether they want to put everybody else at risk or themselves.
Right.
And then it's up to us that they're putting at risk to stay away from them.
Right. Obviously, like I said, we weren't going to have masked police running around here arresting if you didn't have your mask on, but a lot of it's just common sense. You got to kind of take care
and the
of
people who aren't going to follow that already are lacking common sense usually anyway. I'm not talking bad about anybody individual. I'm just saying that the people who aren't going to follow the rules aren't going to follow the rules.
Right. That's true.
And you can't control them, but you can control how you deal with it. And I think that first call, right after that happened, I was still very active in the Man Who Ate the Town role, and I was doing a lot of stuff online about that and who was open, who wasn't.
Yes.
And I had sent you a private message because we are friends.
Right.
And I said, how do I approach this? And you're like, here's what's going on. Nothing is this and nothing is that. Don't freak out. And so I reported what you told me I could, and I think it worked out. I think you handled it well. I think the city handled it well. And I have always been, and this is not butt kissing because you're sitting here, I have always been proud that you are my mayor.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind for saying that. Thank you very much. And that was sponsored by...
I'll take that. Write that out to Tim.
I like how we all took a long pause to soak that moment in.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So what's some of the more challenging parts of being a mayor?
I think most of it is time commitments. I think my staff, I don't know why they did this last year, I figured I had something like almost 1,200 meetings last year. And weekends and Sundays and stuff like that. And
do the math on that. How many a day that is during the work days.
I could have something every night if I wanted to, sometimes two things a night. I'm famous for a local politician here, Earlene Parman, who's passed on now, but she used to call me the ghost. She said I'd be sitting there in a meeting and Mayor Joyner was sitting over to my right or something like that. I look back and look away, and he's gone.
That Irish goodbye.
Yeah, the Irish goodbye. But just a challenge to that, and I like to do some fun things occasionally. I do a little woodworking or cooking or hiking particularly, and so it makes it a little more challenging to do that. But I enjoy it. It's a good chance to meet with a lot of folks around the city. I love it when we have school kids that come down and to tour City Hall, and I meet with them, and they ask the best questions because they aren't afraid to ask it.
Right.
How much do you make? And so that's sort of what I was doing.
So what would you say is maybe the funnest thing you've ever got to do as mayor?
Well, probably. I mean, it was sort of I don't know, ego stroking, I guess, but President Bush was here, second President Bush, right after right after 9/11, really, and he was addressing a part of our public safety efforts here. And we had a little small meeting downtown of about 12, 13 people. And then he was going to the Coliseum to speak to a huge crowd up there. So I was going to go join him, and the police said, "Mayor, you're not going to be able to get there because the streets are going to all be blocked." And I said, "Okay." So I'm standing outside where we were meeting, in the presidential limousines over there. And so President Bush looked over and said, "Hey, Mayor, come on ride with me." I said, "Okay, move over." So that was really pretty heady stuff.
Yeah.
And my wife at that time was there at the Coliseum, and we went in underground and came up, and they said, "Well, you can sit over here, Mayor." So the president got up, and he's talking, and "Yeah, I just rode up here with your new mayor." My wife's going, "What?" Who let that idiot in the car with the mayor? But that was probably one of the fun things. But,
I understood he was a really personable guy.
he was.
Yeah.
That guy you just want to go out and have a beer with.
Oh, I was about to say, I would love to have a beer with him.
You imagine the stories. Yeah. I would think there would
And
be
he's
plenty.
a good artist, too.
Yeah?
I've seen some of his work. That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Oh, yeah, he's a painter.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We pushed back a little bit riding up University. I was pointing out some of our affordable housing we developed there. I said, Mr. President, we're really working hard to get internet in all these houses, And he said, "Well, that's important, but they need to learn how to read." I said, "Yeah, I agree with that, but once they're up reading, they'll be disadvantaged if they don't have access to internet when they're the kids and going to school and so on." But, so he's a good guy.
And who could have foreseen that, 20 or almost 20 years later, that they'd have to have internet to go to school
That's right,
and
yeah.
anything
That's
because
right.
of the pandemic, and that was the only schooling that anybody got to do. My son was a 2020 graduate of Forsyth County Schools, so his graduation was us driving through a parking lot, him jumping out of the car, getting his diploma, taking a picture, everybody yelling at him while it was raining, and get back in the car.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so
This community had to do a lot of things to make all that work. You may have seen the school system had buses that they loaded up as a kind of a Wi-Fi center and take it to neighborhoods where the Wi-Fi wasn't that strong, so kids could get on there and not get behind.
that's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Vision for the future. I know that's kind of one of those broad strokes questions,
Yes,
but clearly more of the affordable housing, lower
Yeah.
crime, all the things that everybody wants. Anything in particular that's sort of either in the back of your mind or the forefront that everybody's talking about that's hopeful vision for the future? Because you look at the progress and the changes that Winston has made over the last 20 years, they're not anecdotal. I mean, they're palpable things that everybody could literally drive around the city and say 20 years ago, none of this, which is to say a lot, existed.
Yeah, that's a
so
good point.
thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying that. Lyndon Johnson, former president, used to say, "It ain't bragging if you can do it." And so we can brag a little bit because this community, not me, but this community has done. I've kind of seen our city go from manufacturing to service sector to technology. And what I'm trying to preach right now is that we become a city of innovation and rapid change, because I think that will be the successful cities of the future, is those that can pivot on a dime, so to speak, and take advantage of the new trends and technologies that are coming along. And fortunately, we've got a lot of good, strong infrastructure here. And I believe we will be successful in doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Seeing what Wake has gotten involved with and the different hands in a handful of things, and watching that, the strength behind Wake Forest along with the technology and those partnering
Right.
with seems to have been very effective in
No
good
question.
ways. Yeah.
No question. Dr. Atala with our Center for Regenerative Medicine, we just had a little ceremony up at a halftime at one of the Wake football games celebrating. He just got another $150 million grant that's going to allow him to continue his development of the therapies and the technology he has there. I call him Dr. Frankenstein because he can grow in body parts and things like that, and pretty amazing the work that he's doing there. He came here, I guess it's been 15 years ago, with about 40 colleagues from Harvard. Now he's got about 500 working in the Center for Regenerative Medicine. Wake is getting ready to start an eye institute, which I think, hopefully, will be similar to the Institute for Regenerative Medicine in terms of job growth there and the service to the northwestern part of North Carolina. So got a lot of good foundation, as you pointed out, and just got to continue to build on that.
Well, thank you for sharing all this with us and being an amazing mayor and all you've done for our city. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is Twin City Talk. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Twin City Talk, and our website is twincitytalk.com. Thank you. The views and opinions portrayed by guests on this podcast are not necessarily those of the distributors and hosting companies. And if you love this podcast, that's great, but don't think about stealing it. Reach out to us and talk about the content, because it is copyrighted.